spiritual growth and becoming spiritually enlightened. He knew she sang and she knew he played guitar and piano. When Pat asked Paul if he could accompany her songs for a Camp Chesterfield church service, their musical collaboration began. In 2005, Pat and Paul released a CD of 11 of Pat's songs called The Endless Nine. I think that's what it is. After relocating to Western Michigan in 2005-2006, they played music in various venues and with various ensembles around St. Joseph, Michigan area. During this time, Pat, who is a psychologist by profession, worked for the Riverwood Mental Health Group, while Paul worked in educational sales for a large music supply company, and then taught at Lake Michigan College. In 2013, Pat and Paul relocated to Monroe County, Michigan, near where Pat grew up. In addition to their current musical activities, Pat works in independent elder care, and Paul teaches for Jackson College in the prison education program, and also has guitar students on the Art of Music Studio in Canton. And I think you do people on Zoom also. Has produced a lot. So without further ado, I give you Paul Hanks.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. We'd like to thank Reverend Marie for inviting us. It's always a great pleasure for us to be here with you and everybody who's with us on the internet today. The topic for today's message is removing the ultimate block, ? And what is that ultimate block? Well, I'm going to approach it from the point of view that the ultimate block may in fact be fear, if we take that as a premise. And how does fear interfere with our lives? How does it block the answers to prayers? And how does it apply, or how does that apply to other things we do in life, like manifesting what we really want, having a life we'd like to have? Now, it's interesting. Have you ever had this happen when you be walking through a bookstore and this book will just kind of jump off the shelf and, oh my, well, not only did this little book jump off the shelf, I remember I had it a few years ago and I don't know what happened with the original copy, but the author of this book is Deborah, Debra, Landwehr Engel, Engle, and the title is The Only Little Prayer You Need. And the subtitle says the shortest route to a life of joy, abundance, and peace of mind. And the little blurb on the side says that this was inspired by A Course in Miracles. So I know a lot of people have studied that course. I'm personally learning about it myself this time. So, this is really a mighty powerful claim. The only little prayer you need. Now, what is the only little prayer that you need, I need, that everybody else needs, according to the author? And it's on page 7 of the book. And the prayer is, please heal my fear-based thoughts. Very simple. Please heal my fear-based thoughts. So before we go into some of the details on that, as I often do, I went to the dictionary to look up the definition of prayer that the dictionary provides, and here's what I found. A solemn request for help or an expression of thanks addressed to God or an object of worship. Okay, so I wanted to get some further clarity here, and I went and I looked for the definition of solemn. Formal and dignified. Not cheerful, not smiling, but serious. Characterized by deep sincerity. And if you're like me and grew up in certain traditions, It also required that you speak in 17th century English. This was required. Oh, yes, because we have to be solemn. All right. Yeah. All right. Okay. I think we can be joyful. I think we can be happy. I think we can come to God in any old way, speaking any language we want. But that's what, for whatever reason, people have these requirements in mind. And there may be times to be solemn in prayer. Okay, that's fine. But I wanted to take a look at the different types of prayer we have. Okay. We know, for example, about prayers of thanksgiving, prayers of devotion, petition, requesting for help, requesting for healing, requesting understanding, requesting wisdom, requesting direction, requesting stuff. You know, we've all known people who, when they were 8 or 9 years old, prayed for that new bicycle for Christmas, right? That's fine. And there are also a special kind of prayer that I want to touch on too, is a prayer of affirmation. But before we do that, we've got to ask a certain question. Have our efforts in prayer ever produced less than optimum results, less than satisfactory results than we were expecting? Has that ever happened? Okay, where you prayed for this and yeah, you got some kind of answer, but it really didn't get that. And what may be getting in the way of it? Now, let's back up to a premise here. Everything, I mean, everything we see, everything we hear, everything we touch, everything we taste, feel, in any way, sense, or any way experience starts with thought. We have to think it first. And as we go through life, we become aware of this, and we can say prayers, and if they don't quite get answered like we were hoping for, have to look at why. Well, there can be a number of reasons. Number one, there could be a preparation issue. If I decide I want to be an air traffic controller, there's a tower, go after it. No. I have to be transformed into an air traffic controller. I have to take the education. I have to take the training. I have to get through the certification. I have to go through all that. I have not yet gone through the process of transformation to do that work. Same with driving a locomotive. I don't want to do that, Especially, I saw a film about the inside of a locomotive cabin one time, and the first thing I looked around, thought, where's the steering wheel? And then it dawned on me, whoa, no, that's not needed here. So, I would really have to start at square one for some of these things. So in some cases, we'll ask for stuff, and God or our higher self knows that, we're just, not for our highest good. It's not going to be in our highest good if we get what we're asking for here. No. Another thing might be a cleansing issue. If somebody, for example, wants a new wardrobe but won't clean out their closet, where are you going to put it? These things, yeah. It could be an issue of forgiveness. It could be an issue of we're just not sure about what we think we really want or desire or how we'd like our life to be. There might be some conflict there. And another one, unintended consequences. Have we thought about that? If we get this, what might this bring with it? I saw a film once on YouTube about this couple. They were living in a tropical part of the world, and they went to a place and saw pets for sale, and they saw this cute little puppy, they were called. Take this puppy home. Turned out to be a bear cub. Now, didn't they get a surprise? But it was all tiny and fuzzy and cute. And a few months later, it wasn't like that anymore. So there was an unintended consequence here. And all kinds of stories abound about unintended consequences. All right. Another thing, self-image issues. Do we sometimes feel that we are, quote unquote, unworthy of the thing we're requesting or whatever we're asking for? It's just like we're almost ashamed to ask for it or whatever, for whatever reason may be. The subject of shame is going to come back again here in a little bit. And this was one that really, on a personal level in my own history, is one I found particularly annoying. We go to express our ideas. Anybody here, I'm not asking for a show of hands, but anybody here ever been told that's just all in your head? You know what I mean? Now, I'll tell you what, I was about 20, 21 years old, something like that, 22. And somebody said that to me about something I was expressing, and it just hit me, how I wanted to respond to that. Everything begins with a thought or an idea. So if I have something that's all in my head, that's a really good reason to respect and to consider it. And by the way, that's true for everybody. Everything you see here, everything you experience, all the progress, all the things we see going on right now began as an idea in somebody's head. Now, at the beginning of the year 2020, I had cataract surgery on both of my eyes. I was out of there in less than an hour and a half. And the next day I was driving. Surgery like that 50, 60, 70 years ago meant a month flat on your back in the hospital. How did we get from that? Previous to that, it meant going blind eventually. So how did we get from that to a month in the hospital to out driving the next day? Those all begin with thoughts in people's heads. How can we do this? So folks, honor your thoughts. You don't know where they're going to lead you and what benefit and blessing they may have. But what does fear itself block? Because our author here says the only prayer we need is heal my fearful thoughts. It can block our creativity. It can block our connection and connectedness with other people in the world. It can block our achievements. It can block love. It can block manifestations of all kinds of things we want to do. So fear indeed is an element that can block us on those four basic levels: spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical that we have as we go through life. So fear indeed can be a problem. Now, some people, when they talk about the nature of fear, FEAR, false expectations about reality. Another version of that is false expectations appearing real. Now, I got to a point, somewhere along in the late 1970s, I was really going through a very great growth period. And it was at the time that I discovered the principle of affirmation, which a lot of people know today as the law of attraction. Has been very popular the last number of years. The book that I found on this subject was The Lazy Man's Way to Riches by a guy named Joe Carbo, K-A-R-B-O. Joe's passed away, I've heard. The book is long out of print, but Joe really was integrating a lot of spiritual principles in this book without saying so directly. He said, first thing you do is you make a long list of everything you think you want, then go through that list and make sure there aren't any contradictions. So somebody says, I want a $60,000 a year income. Okay. And I want a Learjet so I can fly all over the world. You're not going to do it on 60 grand. Sorry. So make sure there aren't contradictions. Somebody says, I want to be able to go out, participate in pool tournaments all over the world, become a world-class pool player, have lots of friends and lots of parties and stuff like that, and also want to have a family and 9 kids. One or the other, but you're probably not going to do both. And those are both decent goals, but they're going to contradict one another. So make very, very sure that is all lined up. And then he gives you instructions on how to practice the affirmation, take it into a meditative state. But one thing to really think about are unintended consequences. Is this something that may be there? If I get this, what will this be like? If you have trusted friends, maybe talk it over. Maybe talk to somebody who has achieved the thing that you want to achieve and see what's there. But one of the other, back to the subject of fear, one of the other things that many of us who've experienced fear and the after effects of it, it can be imposed on us from outside. We could agree to that. And I want to address one more obstacle that so many people have expressed to me. And that is when we were little, authority figures, quote unquote, would come along and they would try to control us, perhaps. And this is where fear can be a huge factor to heal. They would try to control us by force, shame, ridicule, guilt, humiliation, and disapproval, often disguised as so-called, quote unquote, constructive criticism. Things that folks thought were for your own good. And almost all, if not all, of these efforts at control involve fear in some way or another. If you do this, you do that, you do that. My grandmother, God love her, she had an old expression: you keep on doing like that, you'll end up following the bread wagon. Now, to somebody born in the mid-20th century, what? And what she basically meant was, you're going to end up following the bread wagon, waiting for the bread wagon to hit a bump and a loaf of bread fall off. In other words, you wouldn't be able to find work. That's where you're going to end up. Now, I'm not denying the value of legitimate precautions as we go through life. I'm really not. I'm not denying teaching little kids safety, learning safety rules. Don't put your finger in the socket. Don't pet the dog while he's eating. All of this. Not talking about that. But what I'm talking about is how oftentimes unfounded, completely irrational fears can be imposed upon us when we've not, perhaps too young to have the logic to reject that, number one, or just pressure that can come on. And my question, it's pretty obvious, but the question remains: does the shame, ridicule, disapproval, force, guilt, and humiliation we may ever have had imposed on us, does this have the power to get in our way of accomplishing our best efforts or realizing our fondest and most cherished hopes and dreams? Yes, but the first thing I want to pass on is don't blame those who may have used these means to try and influence us. They learned it from somebody else, and they learned it from somebody else before then. This is a chance to heal intergenerational garbage that's gone on. Blame has no part in this whatsoever, as I see it. This is an opportunity to heal and grow beyond. These folks, remember, they had controllers too. They did. The main point I want to make is that all of these behaviors, all of them, are based on fear. Okay? So I go back to this book where we started. On page 7, please heal my fear-based thoughts. So I'll leave with this question. Is this really the only little prayer we need? Well, you'll have to read the book and decide that for yourself. It may or it may not be the only prayer we need, but it's an awfully good one. It's an awfully good one. And it's worthy of our consideration and worthy of application. Because I don't know about you, but I can't think of a single time in my life where I've had fear imposed on me that it did me any good whatsoever. And maybe you'd like to consider this too. So, ladies and gentlemen, all our friends out on the internet through Zoom, it's been a pleasure to be with you today. And thank you all very much. Have a great day. It's a beautiful, glorious day here in Michigan, and I hope you're having a great, beautiful, and glorious day as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. What a wonderful job.